Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the season. It's the prediction podcast. I don't think we could have done this prediction podcast much later. The football season has officially started with Luton playing AC Wimbledon right now in League One. And we're here doing our League 2 prediction podcast. And welcome back on the podcast, Mike. How you doing?
Yeah, all right. Yeah, it's a shame we're missing Dan and Chris tonight because they're usually some of the more research members of the team. I'm going to try and pretend I know what's going on outside of Salop. So we'll see how that goes. But we roped in some other help, haven't we?
Yeah. So welcome back on the podcast, Poolie. How you doing?
How you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for joining us. Obviously, you've been on the podcast many a year. First time you've been on a League 2 podcast. So yeah, here we go. First season League 2 for a number of years now. And yeah, it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on the team and where we're going to potentially end up this season. So yeah, let's jump into it and let's go through it. Since the last podcast, we signed 2 players. So we signed Harrison, a goalkeeper on loan from Manchester United, who's interesting signing, I think. And then we signed Scully from Portsmouth, who's a striker on a 1-year deal. So 2 additions. Definitely needed a goalkeeper, Mike. Obviously, he comes with, I could be honest, I've never heard of him before when we signed him. But I was quite enthused to hear that he's played, been on the bench 6 times for Man United in the Premier League, was on the loan on the bench as well in the Europa League. So young lad, but hopefully someone with a bit of pedigree.
Yeah, I mean, I saw him play against Bolton, which was a slightly tough game for him to come into. He came on at half-time. We were already well behind in that game and really chasing it. And apart from his first action being, from my angle, it either looked like he pushed it into his own net or somebody deflected it past him. But it was a bit of a rough introduction for him. His first thing to do was to pick the ball out of his own net. But after that, he was probably what you'd expect. He was very tidy with his feet. He's one of those goalkeepers that will let a striker chase him down and then sort of do a clever little touch to go around him. Great in pre-season, not so great when, it might be a tight 1-0 or something and he's doing Cruyff turns in his own box, but we'll see. His distribution was good. He claimed a couple of crosses, some smart, snapshot saves. So he looked the part in pre-season. I've only seen him in 1 game. He looks big, but he looks young, I would say. But he comes with some pedigree, and if he's anything like our previous, like we said before, our previous Man United loanee goalkeeper, he'll be doing not half bad, I think. So it seems like a decent capture to me. Always happy to bloody youngster if they're good enough, I think. Poolie, you'd agree with that, would you?
Yeah, I spoke to the Man City goalkeeper scout about him, and he said he's very accomplished, very confident, does all the basics very well, good with his fundamentals, very confident young lad. So yeah, all these ingredients there. It's a good start point for him, League 2. Just hope he stays fit.
Yeah, and if we are going to play passing football, he's going to be key, isn't he, Poolie, especially with his ability on the ball.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of an odd one, that, isn't it? Because we've built up to go 5 at the back and obviously try and play from the back, but they're not renowned ball playing centre halves that we've signed.
No,
no. Feels like a bit of a round hole at the minute, but yeah, I'm sure we'll try and do that.
From what I saw, the ball was sort of being recycled into him, and then he was pinging that early ball out to a high wing back. So he was sort of bypassing the centre halves on the way out, and they were good at getting the ball back to him, and then he was sort of sending it past them. So that might be the trick, just sort of cut the centre halves out when you're trying to move it forward, get it quicker up. Also, Klukas was coming very deep. He was sort of more sitting on the defender's toes, taking it off him there. So it might be a way around that, I think, possibly. Yeah.
I see Klukas going to be the quarterback, isn't he? He's definitely going to come deep and pick up the ball, and everything's going to go through him, isn't it? And I think that was a key part of him joining the team in the first place. He wants to be an integral part of what we do going forward, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. I think he can link well with Harrison, hopefully, for that little out ball.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, there was an article with Sky Sports this week, which Mickey Moore and the assistant were interviewed by Sky Sports, and classically, obviously, Moore was involved, so it had a range of I don't know how to even describe it, different opinion, I guess, from Salah fans on the article. And in some ways, I think it was positive in the sense that Moore acknowledged subtly some of the mistakes that he's made, acknowledged that maybe he'll never win the fans back, acknowledged that we don't have an identity. An identity and styles of play is something that we spoke about a bit on the last podcast, Poolie, and clearly, going from whatever Taylor was to Hurst, then to Ainsworth, then to Appleton. It's been quite a turbulent time in terms of style of play. I say style of play in inverted commas because if you're not winning games, it's not really much of a style, is it?
I don't know. There's a scene in Life of Brian where somebody says you're making it up as you go along, and that's exactly it's not personal. And I've seen lots of things on social media around give the guy a chance and successes are and all that kind of direction. And I get it, but as he said on his first press conference, football is a results orientated game. You are judged on results. It's as simple as that. And quite frankly, if you look at the makeup of our squad compared to 24 months ago and look at the players that we had then, we're so far away. We've dropped so far in such a short space of time, regardless of budgets and all that. And ultimately he's responsible. And I think if you're ever in a role, Ollie, the way you're director of football, you make decisions because ultimately you're responsible. So I'm quite happy to be criticised if I've made those decisions, and I feel that passing the buck and not accepting that responsibility, albeit on a Sky report, is a bit of a cheap way out for me. It's just I didn't get much.
It's a narrative we've been told by the
good article. Good article. But
that Paul Hurst was took the reins and stuff, and I guess it's repeating that message for all of his faults, and he's got many of them. Unfortunately, he needs to be successful if we're going to be successful. And what do you make, Poolie, of kind of like the signings so far?
It is a change of direction, isn't it? So they've gone for we must have transcended out of the football model, have we? In terms of we're going to
what was it? The football,
the player training model.
Player training model. We've arrived at the next stage now. So we've arrived at the buy players with not many miles on their legs because they've been injured for the last 2 years model. So
which never works.
Listen, they've characters, so that's been the positive side. So they've signed characters, haven't they? Guys that can lead and have a bit more presence in the changing rooms and hopefully be better leaders on the pitch. So I get that side of it. That's a good step, isn't it? And we've signed several of those people. How have we been able to afford them is because they've obviously had kind of a checkered injury history over the last 2 years. So pretty much all of the signings that we've brought in, with the exception of 1 or 2, have got the same kind of CV, haven't they? So
they did.
We've been able to get them at a price point that's affordable to us because they've not played recently or not played very regularly recently. So you're taking a chance with that. It could come off, couldn't it? But I think that it's a very risky strategy to have with such a small squad. Yeah,
and I do find the fan reaction quite interesting. Like me and you, Poolie, got quite a lot of stick because I don't think it was a lot of stick, but there was a bit of feedback to me and you questioning the caliber of the players when people were getting really excited when we signed Anderson and Stubbs, which is obviously people are entitled to their opinion, but
of course you want to get excited, don't you? As a fan, you want to get excited, so you hang on to every single sign that you bring in and hope that that's going to be the next great signing and the sign of a turnaround in the club's fortunes. I hope every single one of them pans out, and I hope they're right. But I just think you need to also, in the months of June, July, and August, sprinkle a real dose of realism and sensibility about it, because you get carried away for all the wrong reasons. And if you look across League Two and look at other squads and then maybe take a bit of a breath, that's when the reality might strike home that we're not as progressive as they think we are. Certainly in terms of the attacking areas anyway. I think we lack pace throughout the team still, as we have done for 3 or 4 years, to be honest. We lack creativity, someone who can change the game at a drop of a hat. So I think we'll fundamentally be a little bit stronger this year, certainly stronger off set pieces for and against. I think we'll be more organised under Appleton. Maybe he's a little bit harder to beat, but I still don't know that we're going to be, making the fans rush back to watch football if what I've seen is, pans out really.
But that's a lot of the messaging from that article was around, we're going to be more exciting, we're going to pass the ball more and all this sort of stuff. But it's all waffle until it happens, isn't it? You read those articles every season, and Mickey Moore trotting out the same lines, like you say, and it wasn't his idea to bring back Hurst, or even that was his idea to bring back Hurst. And it just keep going around in circles with that guy. So let's see what happens tomorrow, I think, around the style of play, because he's been trying to develop a different style of play 5 times over his 2 or whatever years he's been here. What's tomorrow's style of play? If it's the Michael Appleton passing football, well, Bolton was a struggle. So let's see.
It's bonkers, isn't it? Because I mean, Postecoglou, when he was at Spurs last year, the major criticism of him was he never adapted his style of play. So as a coach, he never adapted it. It was one way, all out attack, play to win, everything like that. The best football managers are the ones that are able to adapt to each kind of scenario. I get style of play, but every game's different, every opponent's different, every condition is different. The best managers are the ones that adapt and use their squad effectively. So this, I think, it's a bit of a myth that you say you're going to go and play total football from August right the way through the dirty winter, right the way through to the end of May. It's never going to happen. And so
that was a huge
sides in the history. If you think back to the days of Turner, we slogged it out in the middle of January with hard men and proper football. And there's more than one way to win a game of football. You just got to find the right way with the right players.
And that was a big concern of mine towards the end of last season. And then all the stuff we've heard pre-season is Appleton comes in, he's always talking about playing out from the back constantly. And he was trying to do it with players who just could not do it last season. The players we had at the end of last season, those 7 or 8 games he had, it was embarrassing at times, him trying to make players do what they couldn't. But he didn't swap from it. And probably that was a little bit of, let's see if any of these can or not, and see we've got to move on. But then we brought in, like you say, the centre-halves brought in, they're not renowned ball players. They're headers, kickers, they're stoppers. We haven't really improved the midfield apart from Kluivert. He's not going to be able to do it on his own. We haven't improved the wing-back areas, which where a lot of footballers played. And the striking units, broadly speaking, the same, apart from Scully we brought in as well. We'll probably speak about in a minute. So am I going to sit down there tomorrow and see a group of footballers trying to play tiki-taka, play out from the back football that can't do it? And it's a symptom of football I find annoying in the lower leagues. The sort of the Pep Guardiolification of football, where everybody's got to play in this one way. And Pep does it and it wins trophies because he's got the access to all of the best players in the world. At this level, you've got to be savvier and smarter, and hopefully there's a plan B and a toughness and a ruthlessness and a fitness to the squad to compete in League Two. If they're not fit, they can't pass the ball. So there's loads that's going to come into it tomorrow that we're going to have a look at, I think.
Yeah, the first time I see them playing around the back, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, then goes back to the keeper, then goes 60 yards long, is the minute I'll start pulling my hair out. Because that's not playing football. That's just delaying the inevitable, isn't it? Where it's going to go long 60 yards anyway, and Marcus is going to fight and win free kicks, and we'll play that way, percentage football, which is kind of fine. I haven't got a problem with that if we do it properly. But it's
as long as we do whatever we're going to do properly, I think that's the thing.
I always remember
what Mike was saying about we've had all the talking now, and I think pragmatism, obviously if a bit of Appleton's personality in terms of his media presence, in terms of being quite pragmatic and quite reserved, if that's how we play, then great. But I think to Mike's point, if we're playing passive raw around the back and we do make mistakes like MK Dons have done in previous years, who've now actually gone for Warren, which is interesting, that they've flipped their model a little bit as well. But hopefully we can just be a bit of everything and not be too predictable, and hopefully we can do well.
I always it's funny because Andy's on. I always remember when we played for the away sport and Andy started playing for us, a guy that played at a professional level and knows his stuff. And he would always tell us about turning the opposition round to face their own goal. And there's a lot to be said for getting the ball in behind the opposition, and it's much harder to play football if you're facing your own goalkeeper. And when we're trying to play this football in front of opposition, they can just set up very easily in banks of players and stop us playing. And there is a time and a place for us to get it into corners and get it into channels and make players retreat a bit. And I think that's what I'd like to see a bit more. I think in his last games at the end of last season, we struggled to do that against opposition, which was frustrating.
I think anytime you haven't got pace in your team, what it allows the other team to do is squeeze. All right. So if you're a centre half playing for the other team and you've got centre forwards that aren't going to turn you around over the top, and with all due respect, we haven't really got that electric pace to do that either in wide areas or up front. You can squeeze as tight as you like. So every ball's going to be a contested ball. Every ball's going to be tight. You're going to be scrapping for bits rather than getting clean possession. And that's the difference. The minute you start turning them round is the bit they'll start to drop off, and then the space is created. and you can play from that point onwards. But you need that threat of pace to generate that centre half dropping off 2 or 3 yards.
Yeah, just quickly before I wanted to talk about recruitment in a moment. Well, we signed Scully, another player who's got a bit of an intricate injury history, potentially a good player who's played obviously at a higher level. So it'd be interesting to see what he does. I don't know if you guys have any comments on him, but me, I think the most bit is probably going to be the loan signings. Is probably going to be key. So we signed 1 loan signing so far, and I think we're all praying, and I think our season will hinge on Appleton's, I'd say, ability, which has been very good in the past. His loan record is actually quite phenomenal. Some of the players that he's had on loan, and I think what we're all praying for is that wing back, at midfield and up front, that we can get some talent there, Poolie. And I think that's the bit that we have no idea, and we'll come on to predictions later, but that for me is the bit that's going to be the key to this season, is our ability to get players who are good, who can play.
I think you're 100% right, nail on the head. I think our season dictates is by the ability of Appleton to get some really exciting youngsters in. So yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what we're doing. Be interested to see what we're doing in the loan department, Mike. I think that kind of closes off recruitment. Any other comments before we move on?
Just a question about Scully, really. I've heard, is he quick? People say he's quick. That could be an asset. I don't know if he is actually quick or not now, but I don't know anything about him really. Does anybody know his sort of playing profile, what he's like?
He did well at Lincoln with Appleton, but you're talking 2022, so 3 years ago now.
Yeah, and he hasn't played a lot of games recently. He's a kind of modern wide player. Particularly plays on the left, cuts in with his right foot. Not quite sure how we're going to play in this, where he's going to play in this formation, but he does offer us something different. In terms of pace, the only player I think we've got with any pace is Lloyd, and for me, this is going to be a huge season for him. He's never got double figures in his career so far. So for me, it's it's a lot of players in our team I think got something to prove, whether it's Boyle, or whether it's Anderson, or whether it's not Anderson per se, sorry, but if it's I think quite a lot of players have got to turn it around. And there's one question to you, Poolie, before we go into predictions: how hard do you think it's going to be for Appleton to turn around the mentality of the squad?
I think it's really difficult because of the amount of carryover he's got. I've been really surprised that we just didn't clean house. I know it's difficult.
We haven't got rid of anyone. We haven't got rid of anyone.
Shocked. So if you'd have said to me, look, we're going to take a bit of a hit and just allow these guys to go and seek new deals elsewhere and have those man-to-man conversations and let them go and find their happiness elsewhere, I'd have been quite cool with it. But we've carried over so much. Yeah, you can use your own words. I'll use deadwood. And that kind of does. It's more difficult to create a different culture when you've got that overhang. And whilst the new lads coming in will have the fresh energy, impetus, ideas, thought process, all that kind of approach, everything else, it is kind of difficult, which is why you see so many clubs doing the double bounce where they come down from League One and end up going down into the conference because you've got that overhang and that kind of hangover from the year before. So that's been my worry from the minute we were confirmed as going down, to be honest.
Because if you look at the starting team tomorrow, almost guaranteed both of the wing backs, at least one, if not two, of the central midfielders, and at least one of the strikers will be here from last season. It's quite a large part of the team.
Probably both the strikers, unless Scully plays.
Well, unless Scully plays up front, it depends on where he plays. But you might be looking at a completely unchanged striking unit and a completely unchanged wing back unit, and your midfield's broadly the same apart from Clucas. Like, that's not enough change for me from what we saw last season. It was terrible. It was awful, and we haven't. Yeah. And the problem about waiting for these loans to come up, you might bring in another 5 loans, but you might have lost 5 games on the bounce at that point because they won't become available for a month and a half. So it's a real dangerous game to play if that's where you're hoping to make your massive improvements. You might be starting off right on the back foot, almost like having a points deduction if you don't get off to a good start. And so I would like us to, like Poolie says, we can name names, got rid of Benning, got rid of Toto somehow, freed up money, got rid of Biggins and Gilead. Some of these players are hanging around. Lloyd, if somebody would have been interested, I probably got rid of Matter. I think most people would have got rid of. there's a lot more clear out that could have been done there. And we've been, Savin, for example, as well. We've been a bit, a little bit tentative on that maybe. But also, you've got to find people who take them or take the financial hit, and possibly we couldn't do either. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, this is a bit of an out of date one now. I've realised I did the other one on my phone, so I'm missing the new goalkeeper and Scully. But even so, it just shows you how many players from last season are still around. And I think that's your point, Mike, isn't it? There's a lot of players in this squad who were with us last season.
I think it's the midfield area in particular, isn't it? It's just like it's saturated with players from last year, and whilst they've all got something to offer, I guess, in that area, they are kind of League Two, middle of the road players. His lack of performance has been well documented. Enciala, obviously, we talked about him to death. There's just a lot there. Dinanga hasn't really done anything since he's arrived, has he? And there's some glimpses from Stewart that make you think that he could be a real momentum changer used in games, used the right way, because he's shown some craft around the box and some guile, which has been good. But apart from that, I'm kind of struggling to really hang your hat on anything, aren't you? To get excited about.
Maybe the reason why we're struggling to get rid of players, because if you think about two of the central defenders from last year are now playing the non-league.
Well, so it just tells you the kind of caliber of players that we signed, right? And this is the thing for me is every business in this world is always based, their success is always based around recruitment. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether you work in Ollie, you'll know yourself, you get the right people in your business, you'll have a successful operation. And it's no different in the football world. And ultimately, our recruitment has been horrendous. And people keep throwing the budget thing out there. But last year in particular, there was a right back we could have had, probably a wage level that is half of what Bennings is, around that ballpark. There was a young midfielder that would have been half the cost of Ojo with no fee that I know of that we could have brought in. There was another lad that was 21 who was on a free transfer that we could have brought in that could play multiple positions and is now worth probably 200,000 or 300,000 again at an affordable wage. Our recruitment net is just awful, and even when guys are pushing envelopes towards them to say, "Have a look at this individual," just as either a reluctant what the kind of the network of people looking at players are doing, I have no idea, and that's the bit for me.
Amazing that you've got better links than our recruitment setup by the sounds of it, Andy. They need to get you in there, on a retainer or something.
Listen, you could sit and play Football Manager and do a better job, and that's just not. It's just you look at the team that Bromley bring tomorrow with the resources or lack of resources that they have, okay, and maybe look at some of the players and you'll get a glimpse and think, wow, that guy he's got something. Look at Wimbledon in the playoff final at League Two level and look at some of the players that they had with potential, and you think we just don't uncover every stone. And as a sport, you've got to do that. In the 80s we went to Scotland and got players. In the late 90s we went and got the likes of Nigel Pearson and people like that from Heanor Town in Derbyshire. We just don't have that kind of courageous attitude anymore. And
but do you think do you think our problem on the transfers front is then? Are we passive and waiting for people to be offered to us? Are we shopping above our level, so we're constantly getting let down because people have got better options? Or do we just not have a setup at all to speak of? This Tom Ware's there, obviously, but has he got no... What's his structure look like to try and find these players is probably the question.
We're talking about Tom Ware then. So what's his measure of success then? So what as someone who brings players into the club, what's the measure of success? So have you increased resale value? So have you added value to a player that you've brought into the club and you've coached him, nurtured him, mentored him and brought him forward, so the resale value is bigger? Or has it added value to your team on the short-term basis and you've gained results as a result of it? The measures are all negative, aren't they? That's just not. That's just the reality. That's just you gauge on success results. That we are bad at that. Small circles.
Small circles. The Cheltenham thing. I know it sounds a joke, but it is a joke. There's so many players we've signed have played for Cheltenham.
It's small circles, and it's and I guess the perception, and this is just me taking a snapshot, so it's not everybody's obviously opinion, but I think we are perceived in circles as a club that lacks ambition. So every player in the world, whether you're Isak wanting to go to Liverpool or whether you're in League Two wanting to play in League One, has ambition, because you wouldn't play football if you didn't have ambition. So if you can't sell your vision as a club, as a club, and as a manager, and as a coach, it's very difficult to attract players, isn't it? And I think we've struggled in that regards to attract the right sorts of players, because there's two things: success or money. And if you can't give them the money, you've got to sell them the vision. And if you can't do that, people come and look. First thing they look at is your facilities, and they go and look at the ground, and then they talk to their mates. And are you going there? Or no, I'm going to so and so. It's like it's all a bit of that, isn't it? So
momentum as well. We've got
of course it is. Yeah, you just why Wrexham, because they're selling the vision, aren't they? Cody's gone there, hasn't he, today? Because it's selling that vision, isn't it? And
it's being part of something fun. And while it's so easy to criticize more, it's so easy. Maybe this time, and almost praying that he literally is going to build some foundation now, have a manager that's going to play some football, and it will take us a long time to turn this around. But we got to pray. We can only be successful at the moment if more successful. Now the likelihood of that happening is low.
Or if we get rid of more, that's the other option. Yeah, we can be successful if we get rid of him.
And we've got to be in a good place by January. Otherwise,
so the players that are brought in this summer, they're categorically all Mickey Moore's men, are they? Yeah. So Tom Ware gone out there, identified the players. Mickey Moore signed them, and Mike Blackman's okay.
There's no excuse. Well, even from the club, I don't think they could possibly come up with excuses for Moore now, unless he blamed Appleton for everyone. If he blames Appleton for everyone, then he's like the worst director of football's ever seen. If he kind of doesn't take responsibility for this, I would hope beyond hope that he's going to take responsibility for these signs. If he doesn't, then it's just an absolute joke.
In any other situation, he would not be in now.
He's only. It's unbelievable that he's still here, to be honest. But unfortunately, he is, and we've got to basically see what happens. And talking and seeing what happens, I'll go first. So my prediction for Shrewsbury Town this season, based on everything we said, I do think that the Shrewsbury Town fans are going to get a little bit surprised about how good other teams are versus us. I think there's an expectation that we are, been a League One club for a long, long time, and that our players, even though we're crap last year, are going to be good in League Two. And there is a hope that that's the case. But for me, I'm not overly convinced, and I think that at the moment my prediction is we're going to finish 17th or thereabouts. So not in the relegation fight, but I don't see us having enough quality. You look at League Two, and there's a lot of teams that are on a bit of a journey and are trying to go somewhere and have ambitious owners. League Two is not the League Two it was when we last came down. There's a lot of clubs in this division who are spending money, but not even just spending money, but have a direction. So I went for 17th. Mike, what did you go for?
Yeah, funnily enough, I went for the same. And this is not based on any knowledge myself of the wider League Two environment, but just going back to the point you made about how we haven't really changed the squad a huge amount. We might concede a few less goals, but it's not going to be enough to make a difference. And I was thinking about how we looked last season, and I think we looked like we would have struggled in a poorer league last season. We went away to Salford, and we looked poor against a League Two team, and a League Two team that Salford didn't get promoted. They weren't challenging for the top. They were sort of run of the mill, and we got completely outclassed that day. And I look at the way we play and the characters and the inertia and the sort of the negative momentum that we've got around the club. And I don't think a huge amount of that has changed. The manager's come out today and said how much of a feel-good atmosphere there is around the club and stuff. But he's doing that behind closed doors on the training ground without any fans there. The fans, I think, are still pissed off. And we'll get criticised, as I saw some of the feedback from the previous pod we did post-summer, where we weren't enthusiastic and we were predicting bad things and we were all quite dour. And on the eve of a new season, you should be quite positive. But like Poolie said earlier on, a dose of realism is sometimes what's required in pre-season as well. And these guys will have to go some to tell me that they're better than I saw last season. And there's still loads of them knocking around. Now, Class and Scully might be brilliant, but you can't attack with two players. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have a team approach, and playing three centre halves means your wing backs have got to be good, and we haven't done anything in the wing back position. So again, I don't feel like we've improved enough or been brave and bold enough in the transfers, in the squad rebuilding to really be very good. And all I ever hear about is there's more and more money in League Two for other teams coming up and challenging. So that's why my prediction is so negative. I'd love to be proved wrong. I'd love us to be up and about. And a prediction is different to an expectation. Now, my expectation of Shrewsbury Town going into League Two is that we should be challenging at the top of the league. We should be going for an immediate bounce back into League One. We've been a League One club for the best part of 15 years. We've got pedigree as a league club. The purpose of moving to the new stadium was so that we remained in League One and actually tried to get in the Championship. So this is trying to right a massive wrong. I just don't feel we've been brave enough to try and do it. But I wish I could be more positive because I want us to be up there, but I can't be. I mean, are you any more positive, Poolie? Have you got any more for us?
Although it's on the eve of the season to start, there's still quite a number of variables, isn't there? So the loans, as Ollie said, are going to be key, aren't they? So I think, given Appleton's record with successfully in and developing young loan players, I've gone a little bit more optimistic in terms of 13th. But I am going to caveat that by saying that if it doesn't happen, and there's a chance that it, not because we've not done our research or whatever, but the football's a funny game in terms of it doesn't always go to plan in terms of recruitment, particularly loan players. If it takes one injury higher up the food chain and that loan is off, and if that doesn't happen, I think we're in bother. I really do. Yeah. I think the 17th is going to be nearer the number. One person that doesn't get it wrong very often is the bookmaker, and we're 50-1. So we're 50-1 for a reason, aren't we? So I think that's about 17th or 18th best in the league. So yeah, I think Marquis will be a good player at League Two level. I think he'll score his fair share of goals. I do think we'll be better defensively with the players we've signed. I think Lucas is not only a good professional and a good individual, I think he's very talented. So I do think there's a little bit more overall quality in the spine of the squad when you throw in the goalkeeper as well than we had last year, which is why I think we'll be mid-table 13th in League Two this year.
It's worth adding that I'm pretty sure that I've always overestimated our league position, apart from the Paul Hurst season. Though I will say I did put a bet on we'd get automatic promotion, which I cashed out for the playoff final. So I won a few £100 on that. I think every other season that I've always overestimated our position. So I think I'm gone the other side of this a little bit this time. In terms of other predictions, so Chris and Dan Dan has gone for 15th and Chris has gone for 14th. And then when I did put a post on Twitter to ask for positions, for me, there seems to be kind of like two kind of core groups. There's a lot of fans that are kind of gone for like edge of the playoffs. And I think that's hopeful. And I think they're being, obviously hoping we're having a good season. So if I just go through the numbers really quickly just to get a sense, so like 6th, 15th, 18th, 15th, 7th, 13th, 12th, 15th, 8th, 2nd. Someone's obviously very enthusiastic. 7th, 9th, 7th, 10th, 12th. And then there's a few people saying like 23rd and then 16th. So there's like, no one really knows. There's a huge plethora of kind of please. And there is so many variables and unknowns with this team and this division. Doesn't surprise me too much.
I keep hearing a lot of people say, "No, I'd be happy with mid-table this season." I'd be like, "Tell me 3 or 4 years ago that you would have been happy finishing mid-table in League Two. That's like burn the stadium down stuff. That is simply not acceptable." And the fact that people are starting to say that they take that this season, I just think we're such a fan base that's so happy with mediocrity, so happy to sort of accept putrid nonsense that gets served up to us. It's unbelievable, like that anybody could accept that sort of stuff. And that's what I was going to say. That's why I think there's a really like a high sort of 75% chance this season goes tits up, because as soon as we're not bobbing around the top of the league, people can get pissed off. Yeah,
that's a cultural piece. I think that's gone through. It's gone through the club now for a number of years. Just look around the stadium. We accept things to be substandard, and it's just not my makeup. I just find it.
And obviously, someone who's not a Shrewsbury Town fan, and we used to have him on the podcast when it was Lewis Cox, Glyn, yourself, Mike, and we'd have Mark Elliott on.
Yep.
And Mark Elliott was always pointing out like how surprised he was that we would accept mediocrity. And I always thought that was really interesting when you would say that and point that out. And you're right, like we should be having ambition to be at least playoffs, even just on like attendance alone. But we're just so shit that we're kind of where we are now. And you're right, Mike. If we have won like 2 games after 10 games, tell you what, the chairman and more are going to get a lot of abuse. And the fact that the stadium looks like they've done something on the fan zone. I was going to go off on a little tangent now. I don't know if you saw the photos of the toilet.
Yeah,
the photos of the toilet in the preseason game, which was absolutely
in the
covered.
stand,
Absolutely covered in shit. Like that is how the club. That's what the club think of the fans. That's how much effort. And now I understand that the club is absolutely skint because the chairman hasn't got any money to put in the club, and we're, I guess, probably putting all the money we can into the first team. But the lack of care or interest in the fans is mind-boggling, and I'm sure the Sovereign Suite has probably had a lick of paint and been upgraded over the summer. And just to see that, so if we are 10 games in and we've won like 2 games and we're shit, I'll tell you what, the ground will be empty, and those who are there will be spitting feathers.
It's kind of mad that to have the ground in that condition at the start of the season for pre-season friendlies, because people are bring a friend to a friendly because it's only a couple of quid. Let's take some kids down, and you roll up and you see that toilet, you think, well, I'm not going back there again. What a disgusting place that is to go and be entertained. And it's like I can understand it halfway through the season with like regular wear and tear, Saturday, Tuesday, and all this sort of stuff. But at the start of the season, you should have had a big clean before it opens up, like anybody would. I don't really get that. It's very strange.
If you're the real fabric of the community, though, and if you're doing so many great things and giving a lot to supporters, they'll give it back. If you said to them, right, come everybody come in and do a bit. We need to clean up. We need this or we need that. If you portray yourselves the right way and give back the 365 days a year, when you ask your supporters to come and do something, I would certainly travel down from 200 miles away and do whatever is required because I support the club. It just doesn't feel like there's that relationship, does it? It doesn't feel like
they take the piss. I have to say, like the Super Blues and the OSC have funded so much. Like they funded like GPS trackers, GPS trackers for the players, scoreboards over the years, fixed paths. Like it's just balmy that what our fans fund our own the basics. It's very strange, but bit of a random tangent. I do want to comment on that at some point, but talking of shit results, it kind of linked me to bird shit in the toilets for the fans.
Just going back to the predictions as well, I think it's important to say, I don't know, we've been 10 years in League One. I'm not sure everyone's really clued up with League Two and what's it about.
No,
so we're saying we're going to be 13th, 17th. Yeah. I don't think anyone really knows.
No, to be honest, I've done a bit of research. I've listened to a few podcasts. I'm in some geeky football chats where I've basically just copied and learned what other people are saying. To be honest, it's not my own research per se. I'm just absorbing what I'm reading and hearing. And it just seems that a lot of, and to talk about the predictions from the experts, people who do this full time. So like not the top 20 podcast. They've put us. One of them put us 23rd. And the other one put us 16th. So I think they agreed on like 18th or 19th or something like that.
Yeah. And
when you hear about all the other teams, you can see why we are where we are, and people are not impressed with our recruitment. And the funny thing is, I got told that the club couldn't think that we should be really happy with our recruitment. So it is a bit odd.
Yeah,
you can be happy with the players that have been brought in, but disappointed with the volume of recruitment and the extent
and
of
the shot that no one's left. I just find it. If I told you both on the last day of the season, the players are under contract now, none of them have gone, you'd be disappointed. And everyone should be disappointed.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to me, isn't it? It's right.
Obviously, they're overpaid, and
Yeah.
they're rated by external clubs as not worth the value that they're on. So obviously, it's better for them personally to stay on their contract.
Yeah, it's just
another question about League Two, because we're talking about playing football out from the back and dominating it. Does that really happen in League Two? My experience of League Two, it being because the further down the pyramid you go, the less technical the players are. Is that something that happens? It was always very sort of not very direct, but it was a very sort of pragmatic league where it was all about the result and grinding out and fitness and strength and power. So I don't know. I don't really get that. That's
It'll
the right
happen.
You watch a
approach.
bit of League Two football, don't you, Poolie?
Yeah.
It'll happen in Swindon in August or MK Dons in September. But once the pitches start to deteriorate and you're playing Barrow on a Tuesday night in January, you're not playing pretty football, are you? You're not going to be around the back. It's going to be, a battle of physicality and legs. And I don't think that when you look at our midfield in particular.
Yeah, it's something I think we've been lacking for a few seasons now. There's somebody in the middle who can put their foot in and tackle. I think Clue Class will be sort of a floating quarterback, like you said, Poolie. And then Perry, Gilead are runners, aren't they? They're energy up and down. But there's nobody in there who's going to break it up and who's going to control the centre of the park. Gilead, for all his energy, he's easily brushed off the ball. He's not a presence. He doesn't make himself felt in the opposition. And same for Perry. Perry's more of a slightly more forward attacking midfielder. And so, yeah, have we got the right players and the right setup and the right approach for League Two? I've got a big question mark about that. It'll be one of the fascinating elements of the season, I think, really.
I think Higgins has a part to play. I think he scored goals in League Two. I think if he's in the right situation and he times his runs from kind of deeper areas, I think there's goals in him. He's got a good strike on him. He times his runs well. I'll give him that. I think he's a little bit limited technically, but in League Two, he'll get away with that. And he's proved that at Doncaster when he scored a number of goals. So I hope he gets an opportunity to get a run at it because he could give us a few goals from midfield.
Yeah, no, definitely. Okay, so just looking at some of the other predictions, top goal scorer. Dan has gone for Stuart because he's a romantic, and everyone else has gone for Marquis as the top goal scorer. And then in terms of promotion, who have you gone for? In terms of no order, but which 4 teams do you think you're going to get promoted, Poolie?
I was I think MK Dons are going to be up and thereabouts. I think Bristol Rovers will bounce back. I fancy Colchester to do well. And then, by the playoffs, maybe it's Chesterfield. Those are my 4 to go up.
Cool. I think Barnet are going to do well. So last year in the National League, they got over 102 points, scored 97 goals. They've kept most of that squad together. So I think they'll do quite well. That momentum coming through. And then I went for MK Dons, obviously, because they've just spent so much money. Chesterfield, obviously got a good manager who's been successful at these levels before with Cook. And Bristol Rovers, have a better squad like than we had last year. They were just made poor decision with managers, and they've signed a few decent players. So I think that's why I've gone for my 4.
Yeah.
And Mike?
I mean, let's not pretend I've got any great insight to share here. I just sort of went based on the teams that we're used to playing in League One. I thought MK, Bristol, Crewe, Notts County. You'd expect some of them to give it a go to get back.
Notts County is an interesting one. Obviously, you didn't read the statement, Mike, from the last time they recruited their manager.
No,
because they said that their board are going to get involved in making football decisions.
Oh yeah, you shared that with us. Yeah, that sounded mental. That'd be good fun.
Yeah,
they're going to be having half-time conversations and stuff, aren't they? And they're going to.
Exactly, yeah.
No.
Imagine
there you go. No, but, I think you're probably better off. Yeah, exactly. I think you're probably better off running through Dan's and Chris's than spending any time on mine, to be honest. Yeah,
that's fine. So Dan went for MK Dons, Swindon, Bristol Rovers, and Notts County. Again, Notts County seems an interesting theme. Chris has gone for MK Dons, Chesterfield, Salford, and Cambridge. Obviously a bit of a mix there. The only real kind of consistency is MK Dons, who obviously spend a lot of money, and got Paul Warne and signed some players that possibly even could be championship level quality. So it'd be interesting to see how they get on. And then for relegation, who did you go for, Andy?
Newport and Harrogate, actually. Thought they might struggle this year. I think they've been hanging on for a few years now, and they haven't really signed anyone of note. So those are my 2.
Yeah. And Mike, I do like your selections.
Yeah, my hopeful one is Gillingham. I hope they go down, and I hope he takes them down in a blaze of not glory, but something terrible. But probably, I mean, just because I was I couldn't even believe they're in League Two. I just thought Harrogate and Bromley don't really seem big enough to maintain League Two teams. There might be some money knocking around at one of them, but I just thought they don't seem big enough to maintain it historically. So that's why I went for those. Yeah,
I went for Newport, who apparently haven't been very good the last few years. Haven't really signed anyone in the summer. And I went for Cheltenham to get relegated as well, which is terrible for us recruitment next year when we sign all these players that were relegated from League Two when we sign them. We'd be 2 years behind them, won't we? Like, they were in League One, they got relegated, then we got relegated. We keep signing their players. We'll eventually keep following them, but like 1 or 2 years behind.
Who was their director of football about 2 years ago as well? How's that work? Yeah.
Yeah, not exactly. So Dan went for Newport and Accrington Stanley. Chris went to Accrington Stanley and Harrogate as well. Basically, we've kind of picked on, apart from Mike with your wild card of Gillingham, which would be fantastic. To see them get relegated. I think actually we'll probably have quite a lot of banter between Gillingham this year because there's not many other clubs. There's Walsall, obviously. There's not many other clubs really we have any kind of like relationship with. So I think Gillingham game could be quite feisty. So that could be quite fun. But yeah, most people, to be honest, have put in either Accrington, Newport, and Cheltenham in their kind of like the mix, and Harrogate are down there as well in a lot of people's predictions. Cool. And then in terms of Chris asked us to put in a couple of the wild cards he wants us to put. He's put Notts County to finish bottom. So me and Chris obviously read that article about in terms of their director of football. And they also have that Burton manager who did terrible. One of the Burton, there's always two types of Burton Albion managers, isn't it? It's one that gets them nearly relegated and the one that kind of saves them in the last few months of the year. And they got one of the ones that nearly got them relegated as their manager. I can't even remember his name now. But yeah, we need to see what they do. Cool. Anything else on prediction, lads, or anything other predictions for the season ahead?
Feels a difficult one to predict, doesn't it? Absolutely no idea what's going to happen. Which is part of the fun, isn't it? That's
which could be the fun, but we walk out of the meadow tomorrow, Mike, after a 3-0 victory.
Buzzing,
Football's a mad game.
And come straight back onto the internet, delete this podcast so we never sound so negative.
Say that Mickey Moore's the best director of football, where obviously has a great network, and we have to raise everything we said. No.
My fingers crossed.
So you got feeling tomorrow that it'll be a home win. Is that your gut feeling? Is it? Yeah.
I literally have no idea. It's going to be a win, a loss, or a draw for Shrewsbury.
Well, to be fair, I asked my lad before he went to bed tonight what he thought the score would be, and he said 2-2. So he's maybe the most pragmatic of all of us. So there you
go. It's just a cliche, isn't it? The two things are good. We need a good start. Mm-hmm. I think we need to be resolute at the back and score some goals, and we need these loans to work. And we need the atmosphere to be good as well. Now we're either gonna like soar and do really well, or it's gonna be horrific. I don't.
I fear for season. I do. I fear for tomorrow. I think it's the worst opening game we could have had because you're playing a team that you expected to beat. They won't bring a huge following. It's going to be a little bit empty compared to League One atmospheres, I would suggest, even though it's day one and it's always a little bit of buzz around day one. I fear for us tomorrow. I honestly do. Because I think you're right.
Up for it as well.
We do concede or we do.
They're going to be banged up for it.
Yeah, they will be absolutely. It's a cup final, won't it? It's they're playing at a League One stadium and all the things that go with that. And I fear for us tomorrow. I do. Yeah, they'll be lively. They're quick. They're lively on the ball. And listen, I hope I'm completely wrong and we beat them 3-0 and we're at the top of the table. I hope I'm miles off. But
it all hinges on the result tomorrow. What I'm not interested in is us playing well. Not getting anything out of it. They passed the ball well. We created a couple of chances we missed. So it's nothing in that for me. We're going to win the game or not.
Obviously, I'd love both. I'd love a good performance and a result, but we need to get some results. We need to change the mindset. We need to change the mindset and the atmosphere around the club. Now, if you think about a club like Oldham, everyone bloody loves their chairman. He's like an absolute legend. He goes viral every 2 months. Doing something crazy or something lovely. He's like a absolutely lovely bloke. Their attendances are through the roof. They're over they get like 13,000 fans.
It's crazy, isn't it? I was in Yorkshire at Cool, and there was 2 lads walking down the street with the Oldham top on. It was like they're everywhere, aren't they? It seems,
and that they have momentum. Yeah, we have the opposite of momentum. I don't even know what it is. And the atmosphere is going to be fascinating to see.
Yeah,
and it sounds mad. But the first, even half time, is going to be fascinating.
Yeah. First goal.
If we're not doing well,
if there is one. Yeah.
I think the club think that maybe they're going to get a clean slate tomorrow.
No. And going back to the reason why I said that is that I was thinking back to when Matt Taylor was manager. And it was weeks upon weeks of, we can see the pattern. We can see the identity he's trying to put in. We're playing this, we're playing that. There was a percentage of fans and some of the messaging out the club was sort of backing up that rhetoric. But it's the sight test, isn't it? That's why I said, give me 10 games this season. I'm not really looking at pre-season. It's like You got
But even
they've
Matt
got to
Taylor
show
had
it on
some
the
good
pitch.
players though as well, and that's a point that Poolie made. And sometimes the clubs say, "Oh, Matt Taylor did all right." Matt Taylor had like Shea Dunkley and Luke Leahy. And like, how much would you love to have Dan Udoh in the team? Dan Udoh would completely change this team.
Yeah.
Are you talking about running in behind? If we had Dan Udoh, I would put us probably maybe 10 places higher in my prediction.
Yeah. And you weren't his biggest fan at the time either.
No, it's funny, and that's the beautiful thing about football is you can be wrong, and players can improve. But that's another thing as well, is that who have we improved since they've signed for us in the last 3 years?
We're just not that club, are we?
No.
I take solace from the fact that I think that we've got a decent youth system that's producing some.
Isaac England is going to be interesting.
He's promising players right the way through the age group. So I think that's my one grain of comfort. But in terms of taking professional players at a younger age and developing them, through to the point where we can make some money on them and feed the club for the next 2 years, there's no examples of that, is there? It's just
It's funny you mention that. Six of the youth lads went out on loan today, didn't they? So there's a few that featured in pre-season have gone out. So Joe Morris, he played a bit in pre-season, has gone out to Stourbridge. Jack Loughran's gone out to Shifnal Town. Carlson Cairns, I saw him play against Bolton. He's gone out to Darlaston Town. And then a couple of guys I don't think played. Felding, Byrne and Snook have all gone out on loan. Interestingly, England hasn't gone out on loan. But then on Twitter, just before this, I was checking, the club put out a squad list for the season, and England's also not on that. Unless that's an admin error. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I heard that they class England as a player who is in the first team squad. So I imagine that someone
on this pitch, he's maybe not been given a squad number. I don't know if you can see that there.
Maybe it's a surprise. Yeah. Maybe that's a surprise.
Maybe, yeah.
There was also on Twitter they did a different graphic. Let me have a look. No, he's not on that either. Yeah. So interesting.
I'd just rather, in terms of going back to the strategy piece, maybe I kind of understand the experience piece and leaders this year. I sort of get it.
We needed that,
but I just think as an overall ethos for a club of our size, it's got to be we recruit players of a younger age, between the 18 to 22 range, that we can dig up from non-league or League Two or different kind of destinations, work with them, develop them, and sell them on for a profit. That's what we should do, and be famous for being that club, because then people want to come and play for you and they want to be developed.
Well, Connor Goldson, Woods,
all that kind of stuff. But it balances your budget line for the season. It's a massive boost to the club.
We haven't signed anyone. I think we signed players who are basically over 30 or 28, and Scully's 26. We haven't signed
nobody this year.
Sang is 25. But I think
in defence of the club on that point, last season I was tearing my hair out because we were buying. Well, last season, the season before, Subawale.
But they're even like that's
Idowu, like project players, young players, unproven players, and we didn't have enough of the people who played league football. But now we've gone completely the other way, and we're buying all people who play league football. We're not creating any saleable assets, but also the people that we have bought, like Poolie said earlier on, have got injury histories and haven't really done it. Boyle didn't play last season. Scully's been struggling. Lucas has been out for a long time. How much can we guarantee these guys are going to hit the ground running on Monday, or that in 6 or 8 weeks' time they're not going to pull up with hamstrings or injury recurrences?
But even the ones that they tried to sign 2 years ago, Mike, weren't the right make. They didn't have the right background. They didn't have the right.
They were too low.
They were too raw. There's
too raw.
Sweet spot. There's a sweet spot where you can just get someone who's got potential, who has got add-on
Stuart's
value.
Probably maybe the closest they've got to it.
Stuart looks the most likely.
He's but for me, another as well is like you see like other teams do it. Like, when was the last time we signed a youth player on a pro contract, apart from Perry, who's last one from Wolves? We never signed anyone from the Baggies or Wolves or Villa or anyone. We don't ever sign. Even if you go north, we never sign any youngster who's come from
one of the bigger clubs who's not made the final cut. There just doesn't seem to be any kind of conveyor there or desire from them to come to our club. It's just
no.
You're right. We would be famous for from Wolves or Villa or from Birmingham or just just in terms of local circles, and that's what Mickey Moore was allegedly kind of where his greatest strength was in that kind of region, isn't it? And the whole thing is odd to me. It's odd.
It's a worry.
Yeah. So those people who said that we were negative on the last podcast, they weren't enjoying
they'll be hating this.
But this is where we are, though, I think, and I think this is a fair reflection of, I think, where, to be honest, where a lot of fans are.
But not all fans.
Not all fans, isn't it? You can be negative, you can be objective, you can be, you're trying to offer some kind of constructive criticism. It's not just constantly throwing missiles at the club. That's not what it's about, is it? But like you've got to be able to take on board feedback sometimes. And the reality is the reality. And I keep going back to it, but football is a results-based business. It is that end of. That is how you're defined. That is how you're judged. It's just, that is the way it is. It's every club's judged the same way. You're either winning or you're losing. And at the minute, we're just in a downward spiral of losing. And to change that, you have to change something. Something has to change.
Yeah.
You can't keep doing the same things and expect a different result. It doesn't.
No.
Life's not like that.
Yeah.
No.
But that said, I'm desperate for us to win tomorrow. Let's get a win. I'm desperate.
It's this season. I know, but for better or for worse, this is going to be an interesting season. Like we've got to do a bit better. Otherwise it will be back-to-back relegations. And if Roland Witchley wanted, 10 million plus, we get relegated again. We're not a £10 million asset.
No.
We're a 1 or a 2 or even less asset. So there's a lot riding on this season. Need to stop the rot and start turning the ship around. But apart from Apple, if we didn't have, I've got some. I just maybe it's final question for you, Poolie. Like, what's your view on Appleton as our manager?
I think he's done a very steady job so far. I think he's been collected. I think he's been organised. I think he's been quite calm. The back of my mind is if we have a poor start, his natural demeanour is not all of those things. And if it starts to go a little bit pear-shaped, you might see a different version of. You almost saw it in one of the pre-season games where he was disappointed in the performance.
Yep.
And you can tell by his face he was about to lose pressure in a couple of his blood vessels. And that kind of anger and lack of understanding of people's unwillingness to run, to pass the ball correctly, and movement and all that side of it, where you could see it was quite.
It was when the senior players came on against Telford second half, he was feeling that, wasn't he? Yeah.
Understandably, I get it. So I understand his motives, but I just, with the group of players he's got, I hope he's got enough in there to keep him encouraged enough to remain the same calm kind of version of Appleton that we've seen. And if he can work his magic on the loan front and get a couple of young players in, then we might just be able to grab some momentum and hopefully make it a season that gives us some smiles at the very least.
Yeah, it's a bigger. So it's literally as we couldn't have done this podcast any later. So thanks everyone for listening. Hopefully a few people have managed to listen to this before the game. So it'll be quite a few people who know the Bromley score. So thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back on the podcast, Poolie. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
No, great to see you both, and enjoy the game tomorrow for those going.
Yeah.
So result.
And I'll see you tomorrow, Mike.
See you there.
See where we'll be booing or cheering at half time and full time. And
hoping to cheer
the season ahead. I want to
cheer.
I want to be happy.
To boo,
yeah. So enjoy the season, everyone. And we'll be back in. Well, who knows? Maybe a week, 2 weeks, depending on how things go. But we'll be doing what we did last season, doing podcasts every couple of weeks throughout the season. If lots of things happen, sometimes we do multiple podcasts in a week. But hopefully we won't sack our manager, because it'd be nice to start and end the season with the same manager for a change.
It would be nice.
So thanks everyone for listening and watching, and we'll be back again soon.
Cheers, guys.